Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Chee-Tash. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be talking about the book The Clean Coder by Uncle Bob C. Martin. Talking about chapter 13 today, Teams and Projects. If you guys remember last time, we had a shorter video on collaboration, chapter 12, and we talked about the dynamics of working in a company and working with employers and working with other programmers and setting expectations between the different working styles between the business side and the programming side, and even just working together with other programmers as well, and essentially just coming together as a team to get the job done. Today we're going to talk about teams and projects, a little bit of a continuation on the last chapter that we did. So I'm going to just kick things off here. We'll go to the first slide. Does it blend? Does it blend? So Uncle Bob starts off this chapter by saying, what if you have lots of little projects to get done? How should you allocate those projects to programmers? What if you have one really huge project to get done? Well, Uncle Bob here is basically saying there's no such thing as a half person, so you can't put people half on this project and half on this project. Often it doesn't end up with the result that you want. In a project, often it's got managers, developers, testers, and everybody's working on different things. Everything is, as he says here, is blended together. So at the end of the day, if everything's blended together, how can you properly keep track of everything that's going on? And also, not just as a management perspective, how do you keep track, but as a programmer, if you're being pulled in all sorts of different directions, how hard is it to keep track of everything that you're working on? Again, he says there's no such thing as half a person. So you can't split somebody in half and have them go and work on two separate things. I mean, you definitely can. Everybody's done it. I've done it. I've worked on multiple different things at the same time. But is that the best way to go about doing it? And here he talks about the gelled team. The gelled team. So a gelled team is the members of a team have to take time to learn from one another. That's how you become a gelled team. And the best number for a gelled team is around 12 members. And the best ratio for a gelled team is around 2 to 1 programmers, 2 programmers for every 1 tester. And every team eventually will start to gel. If you leave it to its own devices for a while, the team is going to come together and understand how each person works, the tendencies of everybody, the shared principles of the team, the shared objectives. But it takes time for that to happen. And sometimes it can take up to a year, says Uncle Bob. The whole point of this is that you give projects to teams. You don't give people to projects. Because at that point, you're keeping people away from each other, and you're giving somebody who's worked on a project another team to work on, and you're basically mixing up the teams, which is fine too. And I think you do need to be able to work with other people, and I think that's a good thing. But why not work with different people on a specific team? So your team can consist of people who are from different backgrounds or from, work differently together, different personalities. But then the whole point is you keep that team together. It's like a football team. And yes, there's trades and free agency that happens, but bear with me here. You're on a football team for a whole season. Each game is like a project, right? And you don't necessarily switch up the team halfway through a season. No. I mean, and don't get me wrong. American football, you definitely do. There's trades, there's free agency, but bear with me. When you have a gelled team, the point is to keep the team together, finish a project, one project, and then move on to another project. You just keep feeding that team different projects. You don't take other people and put them on projects where they're working with tons of different people. The teams are ever changing, etc. So in this instance, it's kind of team oriented. You feed the projects to the team, not feeding teams to people to a project. Which leads to a question, says Uncle Bob. Which came first, the team or the project? It's kind of what you want to do is you want to form teams around projects. This is kind of what I was mentioning in that previous slide, instead of forming the projects around the teams. But how do you manage that? Teams are going to have variable velocities, so the amount of work that can get done in a fixed time period, that's what a velocity is. And I think how we do it is we have, points from the stories, and then as you complete the stories, you can add up the points, and then there you can find out your velocity based on that. So you can use points to allocate resources. You can target a certain amount of points per project if you know the average velocity. So if you don't know how many people to allocate to a team, you can say, okay, this one has more average velocity, so we're going to put more people on that one than on any other one, for example. Next, the project owner dilemma. So in the cases that we're talking about, where if there's one thing you guys get from this video, it's that projects should be allocated to teams, not teams allocated to projects. What did that one last slide say? Forming teams around projects instead of projects around teams. So if I go back, the project owner dilemma. The dilemma here is that the product owner or the project owner feels less in control, because if multiple projects are given to gelled teams, they can be taken off that project and priorities are shifted on a whim. So the product owner feels a little bit less in control. Let me read from the book here. Project owners who have a team dedicated to their project can count on the effort of that team. They know that because forming and disbanding a team is an expensive operation. The business will not take the team away for short-term reasons. On the other hand, if projects are given to gelled teams, which is what we were saying, you keep a team together, you give projects to it. And if those teams take on several projects at the same time, then the business is free to change priorities on a whim. This can make the project owner insecure about the future. The resources that the project owner is depending on might suddenly be removed from him. So you keep feeding teams projects, right? The projects themselves have an owner, product owner, let's say. But then if the business decides, hey, we're going to actually shift this team towards another project because of, if I go back to the previous slide, the velocity changes because the average velocity on this other project is higher. Well, now the product owner is left in a bit of a dilemma because they're not in control of the people they have working on their project, and then they could be kind of left in the dust with nobody to work on it. So Uncle Bob says you shouldn't have to form and disband teams all the time. What the project owner should do is advocate for the team working on his or her project. So I, as a product owner, okay, we're putting in, like a payment feature, right? My job is to say, hey, we need this team to work on the payment feature because it's going to add value to the business, etc. We have a very old payment system. It doesn't really work. Customers are unhappy with it, etc. So now the team, let's say the alpha team, right? Team Omega, which consists of 10 people, I really need them to work on this project. But what the business side is saying is, okay, Team Alpha or Omega, we need them on another project. But the project owner should advocate for his or her own project and to keep the team on that project. So what you don't want to do is say, okay, we're going to break up Team Alpha or Omega, put half of them on this really, really, or maybe put 2/3 of them on this really, really important project that we need, and only put like 2 on the payment system project. You shouldn't form and disband teams like that. Keep the team together, feed it projects. Move it from project to project. Let the product owner speak on their own product and for the advocacy of their product and for the importance of their product. And I'm kind of using project owner and product owner as synonymous there because I'm more familiar with the term product owner, and I think that's what Uncle Bob here means by a project owner. But that's it, guys. In conclusion, teams are harder to build than projects. So when you have a team that's gelled, that's been working together for a year, don't break that team up. Keep it working. Keep it together and keep feeding it projects. Give the team enough time to gel and then keep giving it projects. That's kind of exactly what I said. But that's going to do it, guys, for this chapter. We only have 1 chapter left of this book. Wow. So we're going to be coming to a close very, very soon. I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you very much. It's been a cool, well, I'll save the speech for the ending of the book, but it's been a good ride, and I actually might be interviewing Uncle Bob so for the podcast, so tune in for that. If we can make that happen, I think that would be really cool. But thank you guys so much for listening. Let me know if you have any questions on this chapter or anything from the book. And I'll catch you guys in the next video, which is on the last chapter of this book, The Clean Coder. Thank you guys so much. My name is Chris. This has been Chee-Tash. Take care, everybody.